We'll be welcoming debating champions from Pan-African schools at the end of this month. Teams competing for the championship include Kenya, Zimbabwe, the UAE and Nigeria, among others. For more on this, I'm joined by Itumeleng Mahanywe from the Pan-African Schools Debating Council. Welcome, Itumeleng. Thanks for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Right, start off by telling us, what is the aim of a Pan-African Debating Championship? We know the values fostered by debating and the good influence it has on school learners, but why a Pan-African competition?
Look, I think there are two things that a lot of people don't understand, especially when you organize a debating championships that sort of culminates a lot of skills and a lot of people from different facets. The first is that Africa cannot exist on its own because of, issues around colonization and. So that's the first one. The second one is the fact that usually, because of the kinds of schools that we have, not only in our country, but, surrounded in the rest of Africa, a lot of the time, some schools don't get the kind of access that some schools, in any particular country may get. So you get, for example, a polarized situation relating to how education is in South Africa, a polarized situation relating to how education may be in Namibia or in Zimbabwe, right? So we're trying as much as possible to bridge those gaps because, to a large extent, many individuals, and I'm talking here school kids between the ages of 13 and 19, may end up not even going to a World Schools Debating Championship, or may end up not even going to any international tournament, like the Heart of Europe or the Eurasian Schools Debating Championship. So the tournament in particular aims at bringing those individuals here so that the children locally, particularly in the city of Johannesburg, to be able to enjoy and to see and to grasp those skills from other individuals from other countries.
So when we look at that polarized situation in a South African context, we have private schools who have a lot more funding, perhaps a lot better support for debate, the right kind of mentorship and teachers available with a good history to try and sort of back up students and advance their skills, versus students from underprivileged communities that might not even have the necessary books to complete their normal school curriculum, let alone the kind of resources and facilities to support and put together a debate team. How do you go about bridging those gaps?
Look, here's the irony. It's that I think of all the Quintile 5 and the, privileged or private schools in South Africa, we just have, one that's registered for the tournament, right? And I think we've got about 6 or 7 teams that come from underprivileged, backgrounds. And I think that's the aim of the tournament, because debating as a sport does not exist in isolation. And I think it's one sport that, particularly to myself personally, which I hold dearly, and I try as much as possible to give as many, individuals access as possible. But what the organization then has done is that in coming together, we've said that, look, we will not leave a single child behind. We will not leave a single, individual behind, regardless of background, because we're trying as much as possible to ensure that that participation is there. Hence why we've had a couple of schools that, that said, look, we cannot afford registration fees. What is it that we can do? And we said, no, it's fine. Come over and we'll try as much as possible to include you. Because, for example, one of our greatest supporters is the city of Johannesburg, as endorsed by the Speaker of Council, Vasco da Gama. And they have, given us so much backing in trying as much as possible to include some of those schools, especially the local ones, to ensure that they actually do take part.
Tell us about some of the logistics of organizing this huge kind of competition, and locally, what's happened? Does each country have their own national competition and then select a team to send to the Pan-African competition? Has that happened yet? Another question, does it take place in English only, or is it vernac? Is it?
Okay, look, it's a lot of things. Countries choose whichever individuals they want to bring. For example, I know there's a Namibian delegation that's coming as a delegation of the Namibian Debating Association, but also there's a school that's coming independent of that, right? And I think similarly so with the UAE or Zimbabwe, it is an open tournament, and I think by saying open, the openness there talks to trying as much as possible to give access to as many people as possible. If an international team, sort of wants to come, they're more than welcome to sign up. We've got an organization, it's called LIT. They are, I think it's a group of different students from different schools across the country. And what their head of delegation has done is that he's brought together a couple of students from different backgrounds, So, funny enough. And he said, look, I mean, we've got these individuals. How about we, team them up? And we've got 2 different teams, of course, and we'd like for them to, to take part. Is that possible? And we said, yeah, of course. I mean, it's all about the skills as well as more than anything, the experience, given that international touch that you're going to be getting from the tournament in and of itself.
Tell us about the theme and the kinds of topics that are chosen for the debates.
Look, the theme is broad, and it's all about reconstructing ideals of colonization as well as colonialism, as well as, given how Africa is viewed outside of Africa, as well as how we Africans sort of view ourselves. So, for example, I mean, the final topic talks about the having a United States of Africa, as well as, trying as much as possible to bridge that whole gap. And I think I'm going to, quote what one of my learners said this past week. And he said, what he said was very important. He said, what's the one commonality that all African countries have, right? And literally, it's these 3 colors. It's green, it's yellow, it's white, right? And if you look at all those African flags, right, they've got that. So it's all about, at its very helm, what is it that brings Africa together? And I think that's the biggest conversation that's going to be had at the tournament.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for telling us more about this. We'll keep an eye on it. Good luck. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Right, thank you very much. Itumeleng Mahanwe speaking to us from the panel.